All right, realtors. So here's a serious question for you. Have you ever asked yourself, okay, why is it that the vast majority of agents don't make any real money? And there's only a small percentage of agents that make the vast majority of the commissions. You know, the ones that are making multiple six and even seven figures a year in commissions. Well, my goal with this video is to help answer some of those questions for you. I'm going to give you access to a behind the scenes look into a live listing agent workshop that I did for some of the agents I'm coaching right now. And what you're going to see is myself and one of my private coaching clients helping some of the newer agents as they're building their business answer some of the questions that I bet a lot of you have as you're getting started, as you're trying to build a listing inventory, as you're starting to earn maybe your first six figures in commissions as a real estate agent. I bet you a lot of these same questions are the ones that you have. And that's why I'm sharing this conversation with you guys. So my goal is that you get a ton of value from this conversation. Certainly, after watching this video, if you want to have a conversation about having me as your coach this year, happy to have that conversation. I'll put a link in the description. Feel free to schedule some time to talk when it makes sense. So you have an 83% listing appointment met to listing appointment taken ratio, which is really, really high. What did you change? What have you changed? I mean, over the years, what are you finding that's working that allows you to win business at such a high percentage?
Well, I think it all starts with one, the phone call, disqualifying, making sure I'm actually meeting with people who do want to sell their home.
Can we talk
Not
about
someone that,
that? Because that's so
yeah,
true. Because the other problem is, and I see this all the time with the agents that are newer to my world, and you see this too in our community, is that when I first start coaching an agent, they get, it's like kind of this progression, right? They first are like, man, I don't do that much prospecting. Then they fall in love with it. Then they get really good at setting appointments that never meet with them. Then they start to set appointments that actually they meet, that they don't win. And then finally, they're able to set a lot of appointments, go on a lot of appointments, and take a lot of listings, which is where you're at right now. And that's where you're at. Because you're there, you've learned how to disqualify appointments so that you are meeting with the right people. Talk to us about that conversation and what is it that you're saying?
yeah. Well, I mean, really just pushing them away on the phone, like making sure they actually do want to sell. I mean, my contact to lead ratio has gone down significant. It's at 10%, which is where it should be. It used to be I was just stuffing the pipeline,
Yeah.
and when I was stuffing the pipeline, I wasn't actually excited to make my follow up calls. I know I've disqualified so much on the phone. The people I'm talking to do want to sell their home at some point. It's just a matter of with who, and hopefully, if I hang in there, it's me if I'm there the longest. But yeah, heavy disqualifying and making sure I'm meeting with someone that wants to sell. That really helps the conversion, and setting the tone at the beginning of the appointment too. You know, they've known that I'm okay if I don't get the business in a way because I've pushed them away so much on the phone. Um, that I think it sets the tone for the meeting. They actually see me as more of an advisor than a salesperson.
Totally. So there's two things here. One, I think you're about to get into like when do you call and confirm and then you do some even more disqualifying, or is this when you set the appointment? So someone says, yes, I want to meet with you. Maybe that's through follow up. They say, yeah, let's meet on Thursday. Are you doing additional disqualifying after you set the appointment to make sure that the appointment is of quality? Or do you hang up that phone as fast as possible, go ring the bell and say, I got one?
No, I don't do that. I do a lot of mine during the general conversation of the phone call, but I
Sure.
do ask questions like, to me, for some reason, I feel like if they tell me what their mortgage payoff is over the phone or not, I know they're actually serious or not.
Great
For
point.
whatever reason, in my brain, like that makes me believe them a little bit more.
Yep.
And I asked them not by being weird, like, hey, what do you owe on the house or whatever, but I let them know, hey, during this appointment, my goal is to help you know what you'll net in a best case, worst case, most likely scenario. I can't do that without the mortgage payoff. What is that?
And only a
And
real seller, to your point, tells you. Only
mhm,
someone who's actually going to sell their house tells you how much they owe. And the other thing you said, which is you believe them. So for everybody listening to this now or at the replay, what you're talking about is you're the one now, 10 years later, interviewing prospects. You're
Yeah.
interviewing prospects to determine who are you going to meet with, who are you going to present to. It's no longer the opposite where you're begging and pleading to go meet with people. You're the one interviewing the prospects, not the other way around. You agree?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a pretty skeptical guy,
Exactly. Yeah.
especially when I talk to these people.
And that's the way we need to. But that took a long time for you to get to. That took a long time for you being burned, working with clients who are wasting your time. That took years of you going through that pain. That's what we're trying to teach agents to get there a lot faster. And that's what disqualifying does. So you do a good job over the. Yeah, go ahead. You want to add something?
I was going to say to anyone listening who's newer, the fastest way to get to that point is just making more phone calls.
Exactly.
There's an unlimited amount of people out there, um, whether you believe it or not. There is, and just making more phone calls will help build that confidence and help you get your skills where you might want them to be.
The bigger your pipeline, the more confidence you'll have. And the exact opposite is true. You have no pipeline, no prospects, no appointments. You're gonna be left picking up the crumbs, which means the worst clients with the most with the least amount of motivation that want the most for their unrealistic price for their home. So if you don't want those three things, the biggest pricks to deal with that have the lowest motivation, who want the most unrealistic price for their home. If you don't want that, the cure to that cause, the root cause, is having a fat, juicy pipeline. The only way to have that is by doing a lot of the thing that you're looking to avoid, prospecting. All right. So then you're at the appointment. You're talking about your ability to set the agenda and clearly communicate to the prospect. You don't need anything from them. You want their business. You'd love to work with them. You don't need it. And that lack of attachment to the outcome is the very thing that pulls the prospect closer, because the agent who is needy, who's desperate, who is like drooling at the mouth with commission breath, pushes the prospect literally away. It's like, oh, that's disgusting. I don't want to work with that person. And the fact that you show up unattached to whether or not they hire you is the very thing that makes you more attractive. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
It's like a
and I'll say
magnet.
this too. I was going to say, I'll say this too. I think not setting the tone at the beginning, if you're getting objections throughout your appointment, like commission or pricing or whatever the case may be, I'm of true belief that it's because the upfront agreement maybe wasn't done properly and they don't maybe believe what you're saying or believe that you have the background to back it up.
Totally true. Totally true. I love it. It's so true. Which is my next question, right? And then we'll open this up for Q&A. So you guys want to start raising your hands, you can. You've got a lot of experience. You've been doing this for a decade. There's a lot of people. You and I have been working together for a couple of years. You've seen people come and go in the community. What would you say? Like, if you could only tell somebody one thing that would help them get results the fastest, what would you tell somebody?
Yeah, and I'm not just saying this to say this, but I mean it would be to listen to what you have to say, Brandon. Like follow in the community, hire a coach. If you want to get healthy, you hire a nutritionist, right? If you want to get better at a sport, you hire a coach. I mean, yeah, it's transformed my life being in coaching with you, Brandon. So I really appreciate that. So just diving in, kind of head first in a way, not worry about what could go wrong on the phone. If not making a phone call is the same thing as getting a no. So you might as well just make the phone call, because you might get a yes.
It's a
So
great
that's
way to put it. I've never heard anybody describe it that way. And thank you for the kind words. But yeah, I've never heard anybody say that. Not making the phone call is the same thing as getting a no. So it's like, yeah, it's so true. That's a really good point. Yeah. All right. So let's open this up. So we've got Alec for another 10 or 15 minutes. You've got the opportunity to ask a top listing agent anything that you want. You've got a front row seat to that. What do you want to ask him? Yeah, go ahead, Paul. We'll start with you.
Okay, yeah. I just got the forewarn not too long ago, so I wanted to ask you about your uh I had written it down, but just about weeding out and contacting just the prime numbers and stuff. But sometimes I'll use forewarn for like if I don't get a hold of somebody that says, well, I don't even own that house, then I'll go on to title, look up the homeowner, then I'll go to Forewarn and look them up. But the whole process seems so time consuming just to get, that number. But sometimes it's worth it. But is that what you do, or is there a faster way to do it?
Yeah, and I would say this too, depending on what market you're in. If you're getting like 100 withdrawals and expireds per day, it's probably harder to do that. I'm in a market where like 10 is a really, really good day. But that's typically what I do. I go to the listing. If it's an owner agent, I'm not going to call that person. If it's like a new construction, I'm not going to call that person. But I'll look at the name, on the tax records. I'll forewarn that. I'll delete any house phones. For mobile numbers on Forewarn, I'm only looking for the most recent year. It's like at this point, 2025, 2024 mobile numbers. Um, I don't know if this makes a difference or not. I typically try to talk to the husband first for whatever reason. But husband, wife, I'll put both of those down. But really, I'm only having like 2 phone numbers per house. And then if none of them are it, I'll go back, but it allows me to get to the next person faster.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much what I do. But I thought I was hoping there might be some faster way.
No, no, no,
All
there's
right.
not.
Thank you.
What else? Who's got the next question? Thanks for that, Paul. Must mean that, Alec, like me, I got a couple pages of notes, so that must mean that you dropped a lot of good nuggets, which is awesome. No other questions for Alec while we got him live? Go ahead, Shay.
Hey, Alec and Brandon. Great information that you shared. I was just curious, in your disqualification process in person, have you ever been in that situation where you said, I don't want this listing? And how did that conversation go?
Yeah, no, I have. And it kind of starts with the upfront agreement, basically saying, hey, if you feel like I'm not the agent for you, you can tell me anytime. And then you kind of throw it back on them in a way, hey, if I feel like I can't live up to your expectations, is it okay if you'd probably rather know that today instead of 3 months from now before you interview another agent, right? Okay. And then if it comes to that point where like they're crazy on, I don't really get to the point anymore where they're like so absurd on price. I think because I've gotten their desire over the phone. But I've had one before where it's like, hey, I just don't think we're going to meet, and I wish you the best of luck. If it doesn't work with another agent, I'm here for you. But they're usually not angry or mad or anything like that because I told them up front.
And yeah, and I would add, that's exactly right, Shay. The thing I would add is exactly what Alex said, which is at the beginning of the presentation, you are getting their permission for all these things. You're getting their permission to tell them if you don't feel like you can help. So in the listing presentation script, what you're going to learn is 2 things in that upfront agreement, which is what Alex is talking about. One is, listen, if you feel as though I'm not the right agent for you, you can tell me, don't worry, you won't hurt my feelings. And at the same point, if I feel as though I, for whatever reason, can't meet up to your expectations, would you be upset if I told you? Would you be upset if I told you I simply couldn't help? And so now, fast forward, you're in the listing presentation. You've got somebody who is a jerk, unmotivated, way overpriced, etc. You say, you know what, Bob, Nancy, Jill, like I mentioned at the beginning, you know what? I just right now, I feel like that if I were to take your listing, I would underserve you. And to shoot you straight, I just don't feel like I can help. And that's just the truth. I'd rather tell that to you now than me tell you, oh yeah, I think I can do X, Y, and Z for you, when really I don't believe that I can. And so I'm just going to, at this point, politely decline. But I do appreciate the opportunity. And you close your book, you put your hands over, and it's over. Now, the other thing to that is, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Alec. I've had clients start to beg me for the business, right? So I think that's, so they've started to say, well, why do you feel that way? Well, why is that? They start now, I've given them the objection and they start to overcome the objection. I say, well, listen, a couple of reasons. Number one is, and I tell them, the price that what you want, I don't believe it is reasonable. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to waste a lot of your time, energy, and effort showing your house on the market and keeping it clean. And it's going to be an uphill battle that I think you're going to lose. Well, what price do you think we should be at? Like I mentioned before, I don't think it makes any right. And I just get into it. Well, if I price it at that, will you take my listing? Because they've never had an agent communicate the way that we teach you to communicate. It's always the opposite. So that's what I've learned over. It took me 20 years to learn this. Alec, would you agree?
Yeah, and kind of to your point too, being stern with them a little bit,
Yeah.
If they have an objection, like, well, if we list it there, people will come in lower. You let them know, hey, the exact same way I'm talking to you right now, how I really believe in this price is the exact same way I'm going to talk to any realtor that submits a lower offer if they did, and we can hang to it. Just because an offer comes in doesn't mean we have to accept it. We stay strong.
Yeah.
And I think they'll kind of they'll actually see your negotiation skills in person, which they'll want to see before they let you just do it behind their back over the phone with someone else.
They get to experience it, right? And so, and I've always said too, not to get off track. Joe, I'm going to come to you. Then Daryl, I'll come to you. It is impossible to underprice a house. It's impossible, but it's very possible to overprice a house. So anytime someone's always said that, is that exactly what I say? Because if something's underpriced, then buyers bid it up. So that's what happens every single time. But the opposite is not true. If you overprice it, nobody comes anyway. All right, Joe, go ahead, my friend. We'll get you unmuted.
Hey, Alex. So thank you so much for giving us so many gold nuggets here. But can you talk about, and I'm just going to ask you to repeat it real quick because I missed some of it, but the process of after getting a lead, what do you do? Like you mentioned constant contact and a few other things. Can you just briefly just go over that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So immediately when I hang up the phone, I do a video text message. And by the way, the video text messages I send, they're pre-recorded. And I have it saved in a folder on my phone, so it's extremely efficient. The way my brain works when I'm making phone calls is I just want to get to the next phone call. That's all I'm worried about is someone else making the next call. So I send the text message out. It's pre-recorded. From there, when I'm doing my lead cleanup, I would do a neighborhood search and put them on the neighborhood search. Put them in constant contact or whatever email campaign that you use. Brandon has some really, really awesome emails that he puts together. Love sending those out. I do mailbox power as well. So either weekly or monthly. And then from there, add them on Facebook. I'm sure there's some training on Facebook groups and stuff like that. You can have them so they're specific to potential prospects in a group on Facebook. And then from there, it's just either your weekly phone calls or your monthly phone calls.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Daryl, go ahead, my friend.
What's up, everybody?
How you doing, dude?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Alec, you remember Daryl from back in the day?
What's up, Daryl?
How you been, man? I'm back for my second world tour here.
Good. Glad to have you.
Hey, similar to what you talked about when I first started, I was just kind of just stuffing the pipeline with a bunch of crap and going on appointments and just running myself ragged and kind of, burnt myself out. What to you, other than, some of the main criterias like, emails, phone numbers, timelines, what to you personally separates a hot lead versus a nurture or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. So I follow the criteria that I think is Brandon would agree with. A hot lead is someone that could turn into an appointment any day. Maybe they have to talk to the wife, maybe they have to see their work schedule, but they seem really motivated. And that's someone that I might reach out to every day. A warm lead would be let's say if you were calling a for sale by owner, for example, and they say, hey, in about a month or so, that's when we'll start interviewing agents. That, in my opinion, would be a warm lead. And then a nurture would be someone maybe they expired in the summertime and they want to wait until next year once school is over for the summertime. That would be a nurture. That would be a once a month.
So I'm chomping at the bit. I think that Daryl, as your past coach and now your current coach, I think that Alec, that was a great answer, but I think that you're asking something a little bit different than that. What I think you're asking is, I I think you get exactly what Alex said. Like that to you is clear as day. What I think you're asking was, but how do I know they're one of those? How do I, what is the technique? And this is what I am so excited for you, Daryl. The reason why I'm this excited is because the way in which I taught you before versus what Alex just spent the last 30 minutes talking about, the whole disqualifying language, is all brand new material for you that you didn't learn before. So like, let me give you, that's what you're asking, right?
That's all I'm hearing. And I'm like, dude, I got to plug in on this because it seems like
It's
just
magic.
push and pull. Yeah.
It's magic. So let me give you a really concrete example of what Alec is talking about and what everyone on the show is talking about every single week. So when you hear Daryl disqualifying, you see the what you learned before probably sounded something like this. Well, Daryl, let me just ask you this. I mean, if you did get a good offer, I mean, would you be totally opposed to the idea of maybe meeting with me so I can show you how to do that? Something like that, right? Daryl, you probably know how to do that. That led you on some good appointments, but a lot of bad appointments, right? And the reason, so what we're talking about is doing the opposite. What we're talking about is gently pushing the prospect away and allowing the prospect to pull us back in. Here's the example. Well, Daryl, let me just ask you this. I guess if you were presented with an offer at this time, I kind of get the feeling just from our conversation that it just wouldn't matter. You're probably going to tell me that you're just going to keep the home forever. Would that be fair?
No, I mean, if I got an offer, I'd probably jump on it.
You see who's selling now? That's what you're going to learn to do in your second tour or whatever, however you said that. That's what we mean by disqualifying. Okay, that's fair enough. And I guess, Daryl, let me ask you this. I mean, if I brought up the idea of getting together, I mean, I would assume that you're going to, the last agent you worked with was amazing. I mean, there's no way I could ever in your business, right?
I don't know. You sound pretty strong.
Well, I mean, the last agent's a great agent. I know her. I mean, I'm assuming that it wouldn't matter what I'd say. I mean, you're going to go back and list it with her. I mean, she probably did a great job for you, right?
Well, no, that's why it's expired. So, yeah, I mean, I want to definitely explore some other options.
And if I were to suggest us to get together sometime this week, you probably wouldn't be able to do anything. You probably got to talk to your wife and get back to me, and then we never talk again, right?
Well, actually, I got an opening tomorrow. I mean, I don't know what your schedule's like.
Right? So this is exaggerating a bit, but you see who's doing the selling? That's what he's talking about. Isn't that so much better to have the prospect invite you over versus begging to come over versus, no. The better way to say it is instead of coming, what's that?
Forcing
your way over, twisting their arm to come over. You got to be invited. And they're pulling from you. That's what you're hearing in the last couple of weeks of you being back that you need to learn as fast as possible. Yeah. Alec, you agree with that?
100%.
Because you changed too. I mean, you were using what I taught you a couple years ago, and then we changed everything on you. And now you're using the new model and it's working better. Is that fair?
Yeah. And the people I meet with and put in my pipeline are so much higher quality. I don't mind talking to them,
And that's what I'm saying, Alec. Like I got, you get so bogged down with all this crap
that's right.
You're just chasing your tail and you're spending money through mailbox power and stuff like that you didn't really have a true lead.
You nailed it.
You just had, stuff that was just bogging you down. And so that's what I was gearing my question towards. And Brandon, I appreciate you hearing through that and diving in a little bit deeper on that. But yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. And just one last, so you can hear it, Daryl, so it really clicks, like the whole email thing, right? So what you've probably been doing, Daryl, for years is like, well, you force your way. So Daryl, what I can do is after we hang up, I can at least email you my FSBO backup plan. That way, if you have a change of mind, you've got something to fall back on. And you've been getting for years what we call counterfeit yeses. You're getting prospects to just tell you things so they get rid of you, not because they're actually interested. So the opposite of that. Have you learned how to do that yet? Have you gone through the new certification yet? Do you know how to ask for emails yet?
So I'm working through that now. But No, not yet, but I'm
So
working through
watch,
it.
here's what it sounds like. This is what Alex learned to do. So Daryl, I guess before I let you go, I mean, if I were to send you a copy of my resume, which outlined my backup plan, I mean, would that be of any value, or would you just end up deleting it? And be honest.
No, I mean, I'd take a look at it.
See, you verbalized it,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So now you're pulling it from me. Are you sure? The last thing I want to do is just end up in your junk email. No. Send it on over. Send it. I'm genuinely interested, right? That's you're going to learn all about that. And then, so
Yeah.
it's them pulling from you versus you pushing them.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that firsthand with Sam too, on that listing
Exactly.
workshop, like, are you sure you're not going to trash this? I was like, damn, like, he's got the balls to say that, and
Well, the reason he has the balls to say that, the reason why is what we've learned is if somebody is never going to do business with you, when do you want to know?
right now.
Right now. And you've learned years of chasing prospects who were never going to do business with you, that were just people you stuffed in the pipeline that were never leads. So in fact, there's no risk. The way it comes across, you might say, wow, that's pretty blunt. But what's happening is that you don't understand yet is you are still getting prospects to give you reflex responses, but it's the true response.
Right.
So when you speak, when you try to elicit a yes from somebody, you get a lot of reflex no's. When you speak the way we're going to teach you now, you still get a reflex no, but the no is the truth in form of their interest. So like when I say, listen, if I were to ask you, Daryl, if you were thinking about selling your home, I kind of get the feeling that you're going to tell me, you just laughed me off the phone and tell me you've got the perfect home. I mean, you're never moving from there. Would I be right? You see that reflex, just that? It's still a reflex no in the terms of interest versus what you've been doing your whole career, which is like, hey, this is Daryl from Joe Bob's Realty. I was calling to find out if you had any interest in selling. A reflex no. It's still no, but the no's mean two different things.
Sure.
Is that helpful?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Totally different.
Because you're going to get a reflex response no matter what. But what we've learned is how to structure language in a way where you're still getting the reflex in a way that shows their true colors, not the bullshit, fake answers. It really gets to the heartbeat of the truth quick.
Yeah.
And you're going to get so good at this that when it works, you're going to feel like you're doing something wrong. Right, Alec? You do such a good job disqualifying where you say, listen, and I'm assuming that when you go to put the house back on the market, that you're going to just relist it with Nancy, the previous agent. I mean, she probably just did an awesome job. And when they say, yep, that's exactly right, part of you is going to say, shit, did I just do that? No, that's the truth. That's what you're looking to get versus chasing them. Does that make sense?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Alec, and that's happened to you, right?
Yeah, no doubt, for sure.
That's you disqualifying, and it worked. That's you saying, whew, when I don't have to put in my follow-up, whatever, when I don't have to invest in mailbox power, ones I don't have to chase, when I found out right now. That was the point. I found out today. You with me?
Right.
And it's also like 10 minutes on the phone you're saving trying to convince someone where the next person might actually be a real hand raiser.
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ian. Ian's going to probably drop some nuggets too, Daryl. So don't go anywhere. Just listen to this.
Yeah, this was just to your point with Daryl. Just today, I had somebody tell me like, "Oh, I'm busy. Can you call me back at 6:00?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can definitely call you back at 6:00." And I asked you a quick question about that. You sound like a really nice guy. A lot of times, nice people tell me to call them back later. Really, they just are trying to be polite, get me off the phone. I mean, do you really want me to call you back? And he reacted. I mean, he was like, "Why would you even ask me that? I don't even want you to call me anymore." And it's like, yeah, duh, I know. Like everybody who tells me, can you call me back later? That's the same thing I say when telemarketers call me. It's like, hey, I'm actually really busy. Could you call me back later? And then it's just beep, block the number, never hear from them again.
So what people say is not what they mean.
Yeah.
And so that's all we're doing here, Daryl. Like, so because what most agents do is they call that guy back, that guy doesn't answer, and then they follow up. They chase. And then they come on a coaching call and say, Brandon, what did I do wrong? Well, what I did wrong was you were not willing to hear the truth. So you didn't ask the right question. Like Ian is not afraid of the truth. He wants to know now. So he asks better questions.
I'm afraid of wasting my time calling them for the next 6 weeks for them never to pick up.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, Ian. Go ahead, Aiden. And then we'll end with Denise. Thanks, Alec. I know we're going over a little bit, but we appreciate your time.
Good.
Cool. Go ahead, Aiden.
Hi, Brandon.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, man.
Sam, I'm newer to the coaching program, so maybe this is just something I haven't got to yet. When you're disqualifying a lead and they ask you to call back, right? But they're kind of so far out and they agree, yeah, go ahead, call me again in 6 months. And then you ask if it would make sense to send over the resume if that's any, would be of any value to you. And they, or would you just end up deleting it? And they're just like, honestly, man, so far out, I probably, I would miss it or I would end up deleting it. Okay. Yeah. And then, after I hang up this call, are you just going to immediately block my number? No, of course not, man. Call me back in 6 months. Sounds good. Do you take that as a lead, although you're not getting the email? Me not.
So for me, I mean, you can tell, I guess, from if they're really, really old and just don't have an email, that's some people, they may be a lead I would follow up with, if there's someone that you can tell from the tone, they really don't feel like talking again, it's not a lead. I may send them a video text message and then never think about them again, or maybe just put them in another folder that says not interested today. But for me, I kind of try to keep my funnel people who I know want to talk to me.
Here's my rule of thumb. Yeah, my rule of thumb is if I try to talk them out of it twice and it doesn't work, I will call them. That's my rule, Aiden. So I will try to disqualify or gently talk them out of it 2 times. And if it doesn't work, AKA good thing for you, it doesn't work, which means it's good for you, I call them back. So my 2 times is maybe it's the email or maybe it's, hey, when the day comes for you to actually list this thing on the market, I'm sure you probably already have an amazing agent. There's probably no need for us to ever talk again. I mean, am I wrong? No. I don't know anybody. Are you sure? Because I don't want to, try to convince you to have a conversation in 6 months if really you have no interest. And they say, no, genuinely, just give me a call back. That's 2 times. I'm good.
Okay.
I put them in my nurture folder because now I know that we've had a good conversation, Aiden. And when I call you in June, like I know you've gone through my litmus test and you are somebody that I gave ample opportunity to tell me to kick rocks and you didn't. You didn't take me up on it. So yeah, I'll call you, no problem, and I'll put you on my email once a week and I'll even invest some money in you. I'll put you on my mailer once a month.
Okay. And same for if they're not comfortable giving the mortgage payoff over the phone, but you've already did all the disqualifying, multiple times. You're not going to throw that away.
No, we're going to make smart business decisions, right? And I think what Alec would tell you, which is the same thing I would tell you, is that when you do this, you will hear it. You will hear what a brush off is, and you will hear what genuine interest sounds like. That is what Alec was talking about. That just takes experience. That's why you hear me, Aiden, talk all the time about the learning's actually in the doing. It's not in going through the course. So you don't learn by going through the course. You learn by actually doing what I ask you to do in the course in the real world, and then you can actually hear it. You'll feel it, rather. I'm sorry. You will feel a brush off versus genuine interest.
Yeah. And I get that feeling a lot. So, you can, really tell you're like, oh, this kind of seems solid or, it doesn't. It's just always, it's almost questionable or it feels like it's.
So let me just, I was just looking at Ben. That's why the script says I get the feeling. And I keep forgetting to tell you guys this. The reason why my script says I get the feeling is because the feeling is real. I've done so much prospecting that I can feel when the prospect has no interest. So it only makes sense that I say something like, well, Aiden, if I even brought up the idea of selling, I kind of get the feeling that you're going to laugh me off the phone and tell me you're just never, ever moving. Because that's the feeling I got. Because when I called, you're like, sure, go ahead. Right? There was a real feeling. It's not a script. It's not a play. It's not a tactic. It was the real feeling I got. That's where the words came from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
If I'm talking to an expired and they love their, oh, it wasn't my last agent's fault. I mean, she was phenomenal. Like, she's one of the best agents. I love her, blah, 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 blah. Well, naturally, I'm going to say, well, yeah, if I were to ask you to look into a second opinion and give me the opportunity to interview for the job, I kind of get the feeling you tell me there's no way. You're going to just relist it with Nancy, right? That's where it comes from, because I do have the feeling. It's not a play we're running on people. Sales is not something we do to people. Sales is something we do for people, for their benefit. You with me?
Yep.
Cool. Does that help, Aiden?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you can kind of throw in their situation a lot with "I get the feeling."
Yeah, because if you get the feeling, that's where the script comes from. You know, if they're brushing you off, naturally you say, "I get the feeling you're telling me to kick rocks." Is that what's happening here? That's all that's happening. If you're with your best friend who you've known your whole life, and they're like super pissed off, it's like, "Hey, do I get the feeling something happened? What's going on?" That's natural human connection 101. That's where the whole saying, if you feel it, say it, that's where it comes from. We're emotional creatures where there's energy being shifted back and forth. If you feel something and you don't say something, that's when prospects get pissed off. That's where you rub people the wrong way. That's where they get mad. That's where they start giving you objections. That's why they start being rude. It's because, like, are you not picking up on me telling you that I don't want to have this conversation? Are you not a human? Right? You feel it, but your lack of addressing it is what rubs the people the wrong way. Cool?
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Last one from Denise. Go ahead, Denise.
So I was just wondering if for some reason they say something like, well, yeah, we are going to use the same agent again, or we're never going to sell again. Do you just end the conversation, or do you, keep trying to pull a little bit more?
The rule of two, right? The rule of two. That's kind of what I was saying to what I was just saying before, which is like, when you get good at this and you have somebody who says, yeah, we are going to list it with the other agent, you're going to say, oh no, what did I do wrong? Because you're so used to not getting the truth on the call and playing the chase game, which is the natural thing that most salespeople do, that when you get the truth and you find out you don't have anything right now, it's going to feel a little bit weird. Because what most of the time is, you don't get to the truth on these calls, and we end up in what we call mutual mystification, where prospects are telling you one thing, they mean another. You didn't hear what they actually meant, which is why you get stuck chasing prospects who never pick up the call again. And you're just wondering, why does this keep happening to me? And so when you disqualify correctly and you say to somebody, and I get the feeling that, I don't know, it wouldn't matter if I did something completely differently than your last agent and you genuinely believed I could do something better, I get the feeling it wouldn't matter. You're probably just going to relist it with her anyway. Would that be fair? Like, we'd be wasting our time. And they say, yep, you're right, Denise, you'd be wasting your time. That's because you did it correctly. Now, in the beginning, you're not going to like it. You're going to say, dang, that kind of doesn't feel real. I just kind of lost an opportunity maybe. And you would have gone back to the old way. Well, I'd rather just chase this person, And so what we're trying to help you with, this is like the Matrix, the red pill, the blue pill. If you take the new pill, you can't go back, right? It's like seeing for the first time, or you have to reject this and stay doing the things that you've done all the time in the past. And you got to keep playing the chase game. Call people, don't ask good questions, beat around the bush, get vague answers, stuff them in your pipeline, call them forever, get stuck in voicemail jail, and never convert anything. That feels better for agents than actually finding out today they don't have something. That's why when I asked the question, Denise, if someone was never going to hire Denise Davis, I'm talking about ever, and I ask you when you want to know, and you tell me right now, most of the time I don't believe agents. No, you don't. You don't want to know that, because if they told you now, you'd think that you did something wrong. Most agents would rather live in hopium. I'm telling you, they would much, much prefer to think they have an opportunity and they feel good about it, when in reality, they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing.
So you would just say, okay, well, thank you for your time. And just
appreciate it. Best of luck to you. Yeah. Thank you.
A question
and then I'm like, whew, all right, got out of that one, right? So like, because my old self would have forced them in my pipeline, Denise. I would have followed up with them. I would have sent the email. I would have texted them. I would have put on mailbox power, just to find out 3 months later, damn, she's on the market with somebody else. What did I do wrong? Well, what you did wrong was your unwillingness to hear the truth because you were addicted to hopium. I might have one here. I might have one here. That's what's going on. Yeah, Alec, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you get that like feeling, like maybe they're just frustrated and are trying to brush you off, so they say they're gonna go with their previous agent, or they're not gonna sell for a year. A question I like asking to just get a little deeper is, well, since you're gonna go with your previous agent anyway, do you mind if I ask you a question about your time on the market? Or since you're never gonna sell your home anyway, can I ask you a question about while it was listed? And they generally do open up, you know. Um, you're kind of agreeing with what they want to do and seeing if it's the truth or not.
Yeah. So that's the second thing that I was talking about, Denise. So I do it one time and then I reassure myself that it is the case. So like your other question was if someone says they're never selling, right? So I get the feeling, Denise, if I were to ask you if you had any consideration on moving, you know, I get the feeling that you're going to tell me there's no way you're in your forever home. Am I right? And you say, yes, you're right. And I say, okay, well, just to Alex's point, since you're never moving, I guess let me ask you this. If you ever did decide that you were going to move, I'm assuming you got a really good agent who you'd be working with anyways, and there'd be never a reason for you to hear from me ever again. Would that be fair? And the person either says, yep, my brother's an agent, or they say, no, not really. Then I say, okay, maybe I have something because they didn't pass the 2 test. And I say, well, a lot of people I talk to want me to let them know what's going on with the market from time to time so they know what the value of their home is, so that in the future, if they ever do decide something, they know exactly what's going on. But I'm assuming, watch this, if I were to ask you if you want an email like that once or twice a month, you would tell me, nope, I got enough emails. I don't need any more junk. Would I be right?
Right.
You see?
Yeah.
Well, I'm only looking for the person to say, no, Brandon, you're not right. I would like something like that. Really? Most people tell me to kick rocks. Most people tell me, yeah, I don't need another email from another realtor, believe me. And it's like, I know. So most people tell me. So I'm only looking for the person to tell me I'm wrong. Those are the really real opportunities for yourself.
I got you. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for helping pull that out of me. Alec, you're the man. We appreciate your time. It was really, really valuable. I'm sure the community feels the same way. So appreciate you. Good luck on a good year. Let's get to 500,000.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.